Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Far Above Rubies today. I'm so very glad that each of you are here. Today, as we continue our walk through lesson 4 of our Bible study called Uncovered, where we are talking about the fathers of the faith. Today, we are specifically focused on Abraham. Now, many generations after Noah and the flood, the earth was once again well populated. However, there was still a difficult task in finding faithful men and women to follow God. However, in the midst of all the world's activity, God found a man who was willing to follow him and live a life of faith. Although Abraham was 75 years old when God first spoke to him and called him to live that life of faith, age did not stop Abraham. We're going to read Genesis chapter 12, verses 1 through 4, and they say this. The Lord had said to Abram, "Leave your native country, your relatives, and your father's family, and go to the land that I will show you. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you and make you famous, and you will be a blessing to others. I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse those who treat you with contempt. All the families on earth will be blessed through you." So Abram departed as the Lord had instructed, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he left Haran. Upon God's calling him, Abraham allowed God to lead him into a new homeland, a promised land. Abraham had no idea where he was going, but he trusted God, and God gave him favor for his obedience. As Abraham journeyed on his life of faith, God reminded him of the blessings that would come as a result of his trust in God. I loved our passage that we read, Genesis chapter 12 there. It told us that as soon as God spoke to Abraham, he departed and did as God instructed. There was no hesitation. There was no mulling it over. God said, go, and Abraham went. We're going to read now Genesis chapter 15, verses 5 through 7, and they say this. Then the Lord took Abram outside and said to him, "Look up into the sky and count the stars, if you can. That's how many descendants you will have." And Abram believed the Lord, and the Lord counted him as righteous because of his faith. Then the Lord told him, "I am the Lord who brought you out of Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land as your possession." After following God for many years, Abraham was faced with the most trying moment of his life. Abraham had a son named Isaac whom he loved very much. This was his promise. This was the culmination of God's promise to him that he would have many descendants, more in number than the stars. It was supposed to start with Isaac, okay? To make sure Abraham still trusted and loved God more than anything or anyone, God tested Abraham's faith. We're told in Genesis chapter 22 that Abraham was commanded to sacrifice his son to God. As odd and deranged as this might have sounded, Abraham trusted God and trusted that God would never actually allow him to harm his son. Abraham went to obey God's command, and just as he was about to satisfy the request, God stopped him. Genesis 22 and 12 says, "And he said," speaking of God, "Do not lay your hand on the lad or do anything to him, for now I know that you fear God." All along their journey to the mountain where he was supposed to sacrifice Isaac, Abraham looked at Isaac and said, "Don't you worry, God will provide the sacrifice." He had faith that God was going to bring him through this awful request, through this awful sacrifice, and that God would not allow his son to be harmed. And sure enough, God fulfilled Abraham's faith and provided that sacrifice, and a ram was found in the bushes when God stopped him from harming Isaac. This event obviously takes faithfulness to a whole new level, and it places Abraham at the pinnacle of examples for those who have faith in God. We will probably never be asked to sacrifice our kid to God. God doesn't do that. This was a very special moment where God was about to give Abraham basically the whole entire world. Okay, he was laying so much at the feet of Abraham, and he wanted to test Abraham and make sure he was worthy. He wanted to prove Abraham's faith, that he was worthy of all that he was about to receive. While God may not ask us to offer him such a crazy, outlandish sacrifice, Faith does often require sacrifice on our part. And we have to ask ourselves if we can have the kind of faith that Abraham did, that said, I trust God no matter what. If he asked me to offer up my promise as a sacrifice, if he asked me to offer up my dreams and my hopes as a sacrifice, then I will do it because I trust God. I have faith in God. I have faith that he works all things for my good. I have faith that he knows best. I have faith that he desires good things for me. I have faith that God himself is good and will not ask any bad thing of me. Tomorrow we're going to talk about Jacob. And I love Jacob's story. I hope that you'll tune in and dig into it with me tomorrow. If no one's told you lately, you are loved and you are cherished. You are valuable. You have beautiful and tremendous worth, my sweet friend, and that worth is far above rubies. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'll see you tomorrow. God bless you.